Um, okay, so good evening, everybody. It is 2100 on a Friday night. That means it is time for the Brushfire Mind. Got Patrick here with us. This is Christopher Lowry, and we are here to discuss a little politics and generally whatever comes to mind. So get ready to be assaulted with manliness, and let's see if we can't figure out the world's problems. Patrick, you were starting to say something about knuckleheads in California. What you got?
No, yeah, the new gun law that went into effect today. You heard about that one, haven't you?
No, what I don't stay up on gun laws really. I don't really pay close attention to California legislation. Um,
Yeah,
all, all those nutburgers over there on the left coast, and so I've
yeah,
got no idea about the fact that just anybody apparently can report you as having some kind of mental problems, and that's adequate for the police to come and apparently without a warrant enter your home and confiscate your weapons.
yeah, and that's exactly right. That's the law went into effect today, and it was passed in a very quick and I'm going to presume Nancy Pelosi would say efficient manner through the California legislature, who meets year round, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that if a court deems you in any way mentally unfit or uh, your motives are called into question, then even though you may own these weapons legally, yes, the police can come in and take them if your judgment is called into question by the court.
As I read it, it's not whether or not the court calls it into question. If basically anybody calls it into question, then the court then has the power to
Yeah.
issue a warrant, basically.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, the piece that I was reading this morning made it sound like it had to be very specifically the court. Although I would imagine that you have to be drug into court by somebody. So,
one can
uh,
hope.
oh yeah. Uh, Texas now has an open carry law that went into effect today. You can carry your weapon openly without a permit.
Good.
Um, Bonus.
I saw something about, I think it was Wyoming, um, passed a new law that says something to the effect
Yeah.
of any federal agent attempting to enforce a gun law within the state will be jailed.
Yeah. Punishable by up to 2 years.
That's excellent. That's a great start. And I hope,
That that right there is what I call superb.
and I don't take this the wrong way, but with the California gun law, um, I I don't want to see cops get hurt. I don't. I do have respect for the police force, but my expectation, and I think it'll be a very good thing for the country, is that what's going to happen is a bevy of cops are going to show up to confiscate some guns from a very conservative Californian. Because contrary to popular belief, California is not a blue state. California is a red state that has two incredibly population dense blue cities.
L.A. and San Francisco.
Exactly. The rest of, well, not all of it, but basically the metropolitan centers in California, um, those are very blue. But when you get outside of the cities, you're in farm country. And
Oh yeah. You get
those,
out there around.
those are some good old red blooded Americans, gun
Oh,
toting
you get
blooded
you get
Americans.
out vineyard country and stuff like that, where these people are working the earth like you do down here, like in upstate New York, uh, especially upstate New York, like up beyond Albany. I remember when I went up there, you talk to folks up there, and they are very, very dyed in the wool conservative. They don't want these. I actually did hear the term liberal hippie thrown around up there quite a bit. They don't want these liberal hippies running their lives anymore than it's absolutely necessary.
Right.
And
So what I expect is going to happen, we're going to have one of these ridiculous warrants drawn up, and the police are going to show up at some farm, and some California farmer hillbilly is going to kill him a couple of cops as they come breaking down his door after he refuses them entry. and that is going to force that law up to the Supreme Court, where it will be overturned because it's obviously and intensely unconstitutional.
Mm-hmm.
Quite simply, all gun law is unconstitutional. Any law that in any way requires a background check, registration,
fingerprinting, any of that stuff. What part of shall not be infringed is being lost in the translation here. I mean, you can talk about it as the day is long, and I actually had this discussion with one of the state troopers down at the Capitol, and we were waxing philosophical about gun laws and stuff like that. And I said, it's not out of the realm of possibility, because I mean, I see both sides of the argument. Granted, yes, the writers of the Constitution, our founding fathers, did not foresee fully automatic weaponry when all of that was written. I'll grant you that.
And that's a bullshit misnomer too.
Sure.
At the time of the signing of the founding documents, the Gatling gun was in existence. It was an active piece of equipment. We had artillery. We had simple machine guns. Okay, so it had to be hand cranked to operate.
Yeah.
It still spat out a metric fuck ton of lead.
Yeah, but I mean, but still, the
Let me double check that. I may be wrong on that.
Well, even if it wasn't, it was certainly not too long after it was this country was founded that such things came into existence.
The Gatling gun was the mid 1800s.
I was going to say that was certainly around Civil War times.
1862.
Yeah, so just in time for the Civil War. But it doesn't matter. The point being that you can make an argument that to get to the heart of the thing, I heard a guy say that in order for a person to take possession of a firearm, they buy the thing and then they have to go and take a basic safety course on the weapon and then a basic marksmanship course on the weapon. And then you're getting right to the heart of the Second Amendment, because the militia was the everyday citizen back then with their long gun. And I said, yeah, but then there's this other little part that says, shall not be infringed. So while your talk is all nice, and I'm not necessarily disagreeing with it in any capacity, because sure, if you just train the everyday citizen in a basic marksmanship course, that's great, but you don't even need that. All you have to do is go to the range once or twice a month, chuck a box of ammo down range, and by God, you're going to improve without having to take the course.
Well, one thing that I always think about when they're like, hey man, machine guns and rocket launchers weren't around when they wrote the Second Amendment. And I'm like, the internet and cell phones weren't around when they wrote the First Amendment. But nobody says, hey, we need to do something about that free speech and freedom of assembly now that it's even easier to do.
Yeah. You can argue these points all day long, but it doesn't matter, because that's the simplicity and the beauty of the language of the Constitution. You just can't argue it. So, shall not be infringed. Yeah, exactly, pal. You can't do anything with it.
You cannot take the weapons away from the people.
No, you cannot, because the people will undoubtedly revolt. It was just like that Japanese general who was called before the emperor, this Japanese guy had studied at Harvard, and the Japanese emperor called him before him to inquire about a mainland invasion of the United States during the Second World War, and the general looked at him and said, a mainland invasion of the United States would be impossible. There would be a rifle behind every blade of grass.
Yeah. Good. That's a fair assessment.
That is a very fair assessment, and a necessary assessment at that. You should not be so foolish as to think that you can outrun the everyday citizen who is armed.
Okay, so in 1718, there was a gun called the Puckle gun that was the first gun that was ever called a machine gun. It was basically a sort of a revolver-style howitzer. There was a crank on the back of it that advanced a large 6-cylinder chamber, but you had to physically unscrew the back of it and turn it one. But it was a weapon that automated the reloading process and shortened the firing and the kill chain. So to say that there was nothing for the founders to understand and expect an even faster firing machine gun weapon, that's ludicrous on the face of it. But more importantly, one of the things that's very cool about the founders is they wrote letters to each other. And among these letters, they discuss with one another in writing their intents, their expectations, their thought processes. And a large part of those processes are that the citizenry, precisely because of the reasons that we fought the Revolutionary War to begin with, should and must be allowed to remain as well armed as the military of its governing body. Because tyranny, as power comes from the end of a gun, tyranny is largely a result of allowing the government to retain a monopoly on any type of power. And of course, condign or punishment-based power, the power of violence, is one of those powers upon which the Democrats of this country wish to retain an absolute monopoly. Their entire objective is to enslave people by taking away their ability to fight their enslavement. That is the intent of the Second Amendment. And anybody who says differently simply has not read.
Thank you.
Now, at the same time, while I must maintain, because it is clearly the case, that the intent of the Second Amendment and the phrasing of the Second Amendment leaves no doubt that there is no such thing as a legitimately constitutionally acceptable gun law. I mean, under the letter of the law, under the language of the Second Amendment, there is no power given to the federal government or the state governments, for that matter, because that power is enumerated by the Second Amendment and therefore removed from the negotiation by the 10th Amendment. There's no power for any governmental body in the United States to deny the acquisition of firearms by felons, unless we agree that felons are no longer citizens. So, and I'm not arguing that we should deny felons their citizenship. I do, but that's a separate issue. On this point, I think denying violent, repeat offending felons access to firearms, that's the extent to which I'm willing to accept the idea that there's such a thing as common sense gun control. Outside of that, the argument is exclusively an argument for tyranny.
Yeah. No. Where you faith, Reverend Keisha Waits filed legislation to.
There's some terrible echo going.
Yeah, you're falling apart there, Patrick. You might want to drop out and pop back in.
All right, I'll be right back.
Sorry, brother.
I like how when he said he'd be right back, it quit.
Well, no, he logged out so he can log back in.
Yeah.
There he is.
Okay, is that better?
Substantially, thus far. Okay, go ahead. What were you going to say, Patrick?
Yeah, Keisha Waits has pre-filed legislation to be heard this year. The Georgia legislature, that if it is passed, of course, I don't foresee it being, but it's being put out there that if you are going through a divorce, you may
yes.
If
yes,
you are
your
being
divorce,
the process of divorce, you are not allowed to buy a gun.
At the judge's discretion.
Of course.
Yeah, because you're going through a divorce and you might just decide, you know what? I'm going to go buy a gun and shoot my ex or my soon-to-be ex.
Yeah, because that's going to solve your problems.
I mean, it would solve some of your problems.
Yeah, yeah, it would.
You'd have way more than you started with, but your original set of problems would be gone.
Yes, they would. Wow. Yeah.
It just
But
got real. Anyway,
Anyway, are we all spoiler immune, or is
no.
Patrick still not?
no, I have not seen Seven yet. I have caught a couple of the big things from the movie so far. Just I've overheard conversations, and I accidentally read too far into a story at one point. So I do know more about the movie than I would care to, but you know, it'll be what it'll be. If this is the point where I need to tell you guys good night, then so be it.
No, 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 no.
No, that's fine. I just feel like it's January 1st. You're out
Yeah.
of excuses. Go roll. If you have to go roll pennies to go see the movie, dude, go roll the change and go see the movie.
Yeah, I was telling Chris about it earlier. We actually started last night, Marie, and how, I mean, I'm working on this girl's education. She had never seen Star Wars at all. Um, so we started last night. We watched 4, 5, and 6 well, 4 and 5 last night. We watched 6 this morning, and she's working on the prequels right now. She wanted to watch them in chronological orders, and I said, no, I don't want you to hate Star Wars. Um,
So you've seen the movies recently? What the hell is the Phantom Menace about again? Run away from the planet, run away from the planet. Oh shit. Go back to the planet. Go back to the planet.
Yeah.
Go back to the planet. Like, why did we need to get this queen away from this planet just to send her back? And if she signs the treaty and then they kill her, that won't be the slightest bit suspicious to the Senate? Oh, geez, there was a blockade around her planet. And then things finally boiled over into an actual civil war. And then shortly after the Queen signed the treaty making the blockade legal, she was killed. The best part, though, is to like really rewatch the movie as an adult. And I'm like, wow, George Lucas hates black people. George Lucas hates Asian people. George Lucas really hates Jewish people. That whole thing about how I'm a tridarian. It won't work on me. Only money. I'm like, wow, a dude with a big nose and a funny accent can only be affected by money? You're a jerk, George Lucas. You really are.
Oh, it's the South Park covetous Jew.
It is. Although it was kind of funny because now that I'm watching the prequels and everything, I was paying attention to it. I mean, I'm presuming that you guys have seen the piece that Reddit user put about Jar Jar being the Sith Lord. Have you
Yeah,
guys?
but he's not because have you seen the thing where Star Wars is your ex-girlfriend?
Yes. Oh my
No.
God.
Chris, you need to watch this. It so excellently explains everything about being a Star Wars fan. Star Wars is your ex-girlfriend. Just Google it. It's worth the 5 minutes of your life you'll sacrifice.
Oh yeah. I have very much the same reaction after watching that I did after reading that whole thing, the whole diatribe about Jar Jar being a Sith Lord. Because, I mean, I'll have to admit, the guy made a pretty convincing argument. I don't necessarily buy it, but he thought it out very, very well. And I had to read it twice. And the second time I went back and read it, I came to the end and I went, oh my God, he's got a concrete argument. But the ex-girlfriend one is far better, I think.
Yeah, and much more accurate.
Yeah, entirely.
Okay. Fair enough.
Chris, we know what Chris is doing when he gets off the call.
It may not even take that long.
So, did you guys see the story that not only had Sweet Cakes Bakery paid their $100,000 fine because they don't want to bake a cake, but their assets were seized on top of it. There was some sort of glitch in the paperwork, so their bank accounts were seized, including
Some sort of glitch.
look, including the one that was marked tithes. So not only did the state seize their assets after they paid a $100,000 restitution to this lesbian couple, but they even seized the bank account that was clearly labeled for charity, because you will be made to care. And if you don't, you will be made to care.
When was that published?
Oh, this is just a few days ago.
Yeah.
I brought it up I said that's the thing I'm bringing up on the show. The Sweet Cakes Bakery. Not only did they pay a little better than $130,000 in fines and restitution, but after that was done, they went to the bank and nope, just none of your stuff works, even including your bank account deliberately set aside for tithing. Even that one doesn't work.
Yeah.
Do we have any idea of what amount of asset was seized?
It was a $7,000 account.
$7,000 was the tithing account. What about the other accounts?
I didn't see a specific figure on the account. The article that I read about was the most offended at the fact that this seemed to be deliberate in the sense that these are Christians following a Christian tenet, so we're going to seize the money that would go to their evil Christian church. And nobody said this directly, but when you read the story in sequence, the way the author had put it together, it certainly did look like that there was an additional punitive measure stacked on top of the punitive measure. Let's just go ahead and scare the piss out of everybody that ever even thought about doing this same thing.
Yeah. Because, they're just bitter clinging to their guns and religion.
Well, they were just clinging to their cake, man. You weren't here when we got into this once before, Patrick, and I am really not ashamed of the fact that I really do think that marriage should be between a man and a woman, and not just for Christian reasons, but some biological and social reasons as well. But just the same, I always thought DOMA was bad law. And in 2004, when part of George Bush's reelection campaign was passing an amendment to the Constitution defining marriage between a man and a woman, I thought that was a terrible idea. I don't want the federal government defining marriage. I really don't. So for me personally, this one just really gets to me because I don't hate gay people. I don't think gay people should not allowed to have the civil union or be allowed to adopt or anything like that. I don't have a problem. Please, by all means, let them adopt. Let these kids go to a loving family and all that other mess. It's just this in particular, I hate the gay folks. If you could hear my internal thoughts, I'd be calling everybody a faggot because secretly I'm a homophobe. And that's why this story in particular really gets to me.
I have this deep suspicion that somewhere in the midst of that long pause, we missed something that absolutely showed us that your statement that I'm just constantly calling people faggots in my head was somehow was actually sarcastic and hyperbolic, but there was a long pause there where you stopped broadcasting your audio, and I think that hyperbolic qualifier was omitted. Seriously,
Yeah,
you went from I think DOMA was bad law to I just walk around
calling people
faggots in my head's all
my head. Yeah.
Yeah, we must have had some bad connection.
Yeah, it
If
could
you would
be.
like to,
Uh,
if you would like to revisit that statement and clarify, that might be good for the future clippiness.
No, I was just pointing out that because I have certain opinions where I rather unabashedly think that in a perfect world, marriage, union, whatever, is a man and a woman. You have a mommy and a daddy. Um, but outside of that, a guy like me is now considered a bigot. I'm a jerk, where I'm some kind of homophobe, where I'm walking around secretly calling everybody a faggot in my mind. But the truth is, I've got some own stuff that inside of me that I haven't yet to work out, either some hatred or some latent homosexuality in and of myself. And of course, none of that's the case. I just think what I think because I think it over my few decades of life experience. But whatever. I'm just you will be
well,
made to care. I will be made to care. It will happen.
no, sure
I
it
will
will,
not
but
be made.
for me, it comes down to for me, it comes down to this. Again, I'm the same way. I was not raised by my parents in a bigoted household. I was not taught to hate anybody because of who they are, the way they live their life. That's their business. Um, Gay people, uh, I have very, very little problem with. My chief complaint is that because they have made an effort to live their life a certain way, uh, they feel they deserve exception to the rule. They feel they deserve attention and adoration for these things. No, you don't. You don't deserve a damn bit of news coverage because you're gay. Uh, you know, sure, there's still a lot of bigotry in the system, especially when it comes to marriages, civil unions, adoptions, and all that kind of stuff. And I do call bullshit there. Let them have it. I don't care. But you don't deserve a cookie because you're gay. Uh, that's,
Well,
and I don't want to hear about it personally.
what you're
I
talking about?
actually made this point. I actually made this point to a gay guy that I was talking to down at the Capitol. I mean, he was one of the most flaming examples of a gay man I'd ever seen in my life. Whatever, that was his prerogative. Uh, and he asked me, if I had a problem with gay people, and I said I'm not really allowed to sponge too much on personal philosophy here, um, but it just seems to me um, that you don't see me coming up to you and telling you what I did with my wife behind closed doors the other night, do you? You don't see me
Yeah, because
screaming that
it's
into a camera.
rude. The homosexuality has
Um,
nothing to do with it. It's rude. You don't kiss and tell. Hello, you want real
right.
equality? Shut the fuck up about your sex life.
It's called a private life for a reason. It's because, yeah, you don't run around talking about what you did in the bedroom. Hey, dude, if you want to just go gag, that's your business. I don't care, but I don't
All right,
want to
all
hear
right.
about it.
Let's let's uh let's be careful with how far this topic goes. To your point, Patrick, about it, it doesn't get you a cookie. Um, that's not a gay thing. That's a every fucking minority that has developed a fucking victim group thing.
Yeah,
Because here's
agreed.
what
That's a victim thing.
Yeah,
because somehow what has happened, and it's not somehow, we know exactly what's happened. It's been very carefully orchestrated by these fucking Alenskyites. It's this simple. These people, your your civil rights activists, your gay activists, your fucking uh, stuffed unicorn sex bomb activists, your fucking whatever. Every little victim group has it in their heads that equality is the same as special privileges. Basically,
yeah,
you can't say that we have achieved equality until everybody that's not a white man with a job gets a fucking welfare check. That's where we are. And look at all the vocal gay activists following the SCOTUS decision last year, which was last year. It's fucking. By the way, Happy New Year's, everybody. SCOTUS was.
Yay!
But the gay marriage decision by SCOTUS last year was actually followed by gay activists complaining that having won gay marriage, all of a sudden, well, we don't know what to think, because the activism and the victimhood of being gay was a part of our identity, and now we've lost a piece of that activism and a piece of that victimhood, and that's going to harm the identities that have been developed by people who've been out of the closet for 2-3 years or more. And I mean, as soon as I heard the first one say it, honestly, before I heard any of them actually say it, I heard some of the talking heads like Hannity and them. I want to say it was Rush that said it. Said something about basically you should expect that we're going to start hearing. He predicted it, and then sure enough, there it was, and I heard so many of them come out, and just immediately within hours. Yeah, so I just don't know how to feel, because the activism was such an important part of my life, and I've been so defined by my victimhood. It's part of my personal. Motherfucker, how can you not be defined by being you? Just fucking. I'm Chris Lowry. I'm a big, gnarly, noisy, stinky, angry fucking white dude. I know what the fuck I am, and there ain't a goddamn thing you can do to change what I am. It's who I am. That's what defines me.
Well, sure it is, Chris, but you have to these people are not living their life. They're living the life.
Come at me again with that. Say it again, Patrick.
You have to keep in mind, these people are not living their own lives. They're living the life that the other activists are screaming that they should live, which is constantly fighting for the equality, for the whatever, for the gay marriage decision. So when they suddenly have nothing else to fight for, yeah, they're not going to know who they are or what they're about, because they've spent all their time and energy putting themselves into something else that they don't even necessarily think is about them. Because it's not about them, it's about everybody. So it's that whole collective mindset where suddenly now that's been removed. You don't know what you're about it, because you've been so caught up in it for so long.
There are all these subtle things in our society where they say that, it's not okay to be a bigot anymore. No, it's perfectly acceptable to be a bigot as long as you're bigoted toward the correct things. For example,
yes.
As soon as I say, hey, I'm a white guy, I'm straight, I'm from the South, and I go to church, well, golly, I must be a racist. And oh my God, tell somebody that you're a Trump supporter. Well, crikey, you're a massive racist then. So it's perfectly okay to pass judgment on others if they don't follow liberal tenets. It's anyhow, I don't even really have a point. It just kind of pisses me off. No, I do have a point.
Yeah.
Because when you grow up your entire life and you've got these subtle undercurrents where you have believed forever and ever and ever. I know a girl, God bless her, used to live in Alabama, moved up to Colorado.
Hi, Tricia.
Swore up and down, it is so hard to be an atheist in the South. And I'm like, why? Why? I live in the stereotypical redneck town, and nobody has ever just said, do you go to church? Well, you're not allowed to shop at this store, or any other some such foolishness. So there is this perception that is out there, and if part of being gay is that you're a victim, even if in reality part of being gay doesn't have anything to do with victimhood, you just like something different than what other people would like. what do you do? How do you live your life? How are you defined? Where all of a sudden, it wasn't this thing that was you. It was this thing that made you special and different and unique. And you're this magic fireball and this pretty snowflake. And now you're just like everybody else, buddy. Sorry, you're gonna get up in the morning. You're gonna go to work. You're gonna pay your taxes at the end of the year, and you're gonna fucking die somewhere around 80 years old. Ain't nothing special about you. So I think that there's a whole lot of this sort of thing in our society. It just hasn't been turned over yet. And as we go further and further down the rabbit hole, more and more of it will come out. I just don't know how long people are going to tolerate $100,000 fines for not wanting to bake a cake. I mean, is that something that we all agree on? Am I crazy? Like, if these people don't want to bake the cake, fuck it. Don't let them bake the cake. Or is it just because I've worked in the restaurant industry and I know enough to know that the people making your food, you don't want to piss in their Cheerios because they will spit in your food. Please believe. Go ahead. Force these folks to make cakes that they don't want to make. I'm sure nobody will ever sneeze or wipe their ass and then go right back in the dough. That won't ever happen.
Right. Yeah, you're not going to end up with you're not going to end up getting your gay wedding catered with fucking cum chowder.
Yeah.
Hey,
that was one of the great.
And for everybody out there that doesn't think that stuff happens, it happens all the time. Go ahead. Go to McDonald's and treat that kid working behind the counter like shit. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, go
enjoy that stuff.
Especially if it's a girl. Oh, if it's a girl, there's some cook in the back that has a crush on her. Go ahead and be rude to her and see how messed up your food is. Whoa, it's a fee.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Oval. I suppose you're going to bring me some more coffee. You're sexy as shit. I love you.
Yeah, I always tell people when they ask me what it was like working in the restaurant industry, I say, if you ever want to know what's going through those people's minds as they're working that job, go and watch the movie Waiting. And
it's exaggerated.
Oh man, it was pitch perfect.
Yeah, everything. It was exaggerated. It wasn't quite that crazy, but all of the basic stuff that happens in that movie, I've seen happen. This is an absolutely 100% true story. At IHOP, and there is a lady, and she is acting the fool about her steak. First of all, if you go to IHOP and you complain about your steak, fuck you. Okay? Go to Longhorns and complain about your steak. Don't go to IHOP and complain about your steak.
Well, if you go to IHOP and order a steak, fuck you. You go to IHOP for a fucking mile-high stack of pancakes on Veterans Day, and that's it.
Amen. You go to IHOP, you get breakfast. It's called the
International. You want to get me back at an IHOP? Put the fucking smoking section back in the back corner. Until then,
shut up.
So this lady is just acting like a mega bitch. She sends the steak back to the kitchen because it's not right, and sends the steak back to the kitchen a second time because it's not right, and includes this little message to the cook. I want you to tell the cook he needs to do it right. I don't even remember the exact words, but she very clearly wanted us to pass along a shitty message to the cook. And the server was this guy named Jonathan, and he actually told her, said, ma'am, you don't want me to tell him that. And she said, if you want a tip, you want to tell him that. And he said, okay. So he walks back, and it's a guy named Jose. At least that's what it said on his bullshit green card, whatever he had. So Jose gets the steak, and he looks at it, and he understands that he's being insulted. So Jose takes the steak, throws it on the ground, and steps on it. Literally, jumps up and down a couple of times, picks it back up off the ground, gets some onions, throws it on the grill, gets it hot, drowns that motherfucker in butter, and puts it back on her plate and sends it back out to the table. And the best part is she eats it. Oh,
every
bite.
This is
every bite of it.
This shit.
Everything
Yep.
better with this.
Yeah. So don't.
I had a very similar experience working at Applebee's. There's this woman. She ordered there was the house sirloin, and she wanted extra garlic bread with it, right? Well, she did the same thing. The steak came out. It was not to her liking. She sent it back once, twice. The third time it came back, uh, Carlos, our cook, said, "Okay, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. So I'm going to cook her a new steak." So he cooked her a new steak, and then they made garlic bread. And Cameron, I'm pretty sure you understand where that one went. It was garlic bread covered in Fermunda cheese. You know. I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't watched it happen, and it was like, ooh, but yeah, there again, every bite, and you're sitting there laughing your ass off. It's just like, man, don't fuck with people who prepare your food.
Yeah, my district manager.
More importantly, don't fuck with people who prepare your food where you can't watch them do it.
Yeah.
Maybe fuck with somebody at Waffle House or Steak and Shake.
Yeah.
But
you go to Waffle House, and as long as it's not third shift where some fucking 300-pound Leviathan is going to throw a goddamn cast iron skillet at your head and tell you, don't you have fucking eggs and cheese at your home? Yeah, you go to Waffle House and whatever the fuck you want on first and second shift. That's easy. Yeah, I've seen him do it.
I get nervous about going out with my district supervisor because the first time I ever went out to eat with him, about 5 minutes in, I said to him, I was like, wow, you have never had a job at a restaurant, have you? And he said, no, I haven't. How can you tell? And I'm like, because it is perfectly obvious.
Because you lack a healthy fear for your safety.
Because he said we're in a Mexican restaurant, and I swear, and it was something about the way he asked this chick for light tomatoes. And she walked away from the table. I said, light tomatoes? Please define light tomatoes. And he says, less than normal. I said, okay, motherfucker, seriously, how many tomatoes do you normally go on this? And he said, well, I don't know. And he said, it's really not that big a deal. I said, no, it's not that big a deal. No, it's not until it is.
Yeah.
I won't like tomatoes.
I never messed with anybody's food when I was in the food service industry. I did have, and most of the time when I was in food service, I was either a manager or a cook, or a dishwasher. I mean, when I was a kid, I did a lot of dishwasher gigs. But I did do a brief stint as a waiter at a Ruby Tuesdays. And I had this group come in one night, about 8 of them, ran up a large bill, and left me not enough money to cover the bill. They didn't just stiff me on my tip. And they ordered liquor and everything, and they sent back every single plate of food that came out. And they had some kind of complaint about every plate of food. And then after they sent it back, they complained about how long it took to get them replaced and blah, 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 blah. Everything you could expect out of a shitty customer. And then they beyond stiffed me on the tip. They didn't leave enough money to cover their check. Just left cash on the table and got up and walked out. So I followed the guy out into the parking lot with the ticket and his cash in my hand. And I told him, hey, man, I treated it as if I thought it was just a mistake.
We've had a misunderstanding.
We've had a simple misunderstanding. I'm coming here as a gentleman, giving you an opportunity to correct your error.
You need me behind you emoting every story you tell from this point forward. You have no idea how well this is working.
Well, thankfully I'm recording this, so I can go back and watch it later. So I go.
Dude, it's brilliant.
As he's getting his family loaded in his car, and I say, "Sir, excuse me. You left me this much. The bill was this much. You still owe me this much money. I'm sure it was just a mistake. If you could just pay me the rest of the ticket, then that'll be fine. And he looked at me and said, and I quote, "Nigga, I'm out your restaurant now. What the fuck you gonna do about it?"
Call the cops and give them your license plate number?
And I said, "Allow me to explain. The difference that you haven't paid for your check will come out of my pocket. And so, like any other hood on the street who's trying to rob me of my money, I'm going to stab you right here in this parking lot, and then I'm going to call the police to come and dispose of your body and explain how it was self-defense." And, of course, he became indignant, and he said, "Motherfucker, I want to talk to your motherfucking manager." I said, "Okay, let's go talk to my motherfucking manager." And we did. We went in, and we found the manager, cute little redheaded chick. And he said, "This motherfucker said he was going to stab me." And she looked at him and with a straight face said, "Yeah, he'll do it." She looked him dead in the eye with a straight face and said, "Yeah, he'll do it." And he stomped out of the restaurant. And she went ahead and comped his ticket, and I just kept the whole what he had left as a tip, which, I mean, as tips go, was pretty substantial. It was a couple $100.
Yay!
But yeah, so I got a positive resolution there, even though he did end up walking out of the restaurant without ever paying the rest of the ticket.
You got a positive resolution, but Ruby Tuesdays got fucked.
Yeah, really, Ruby Tuesdays wasn't out that money.
Yeah.
They were out the cost of the food, which, I mean, shit, when I was still
Negligible at best.
DJs, a $13 pizza cost me 40 cents to make.
Yeah.
I don't remember my food costs being that low at Papa John's, but I do remember being flabbergasted by the 1,000% markup and how much of that went to labor and operations.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
Same thing.
Hey,
It was the same thing at Don's.
Segway, $15 an hour minimum wage. Speaking of that labor and operations.
How's that working out?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it was Seattle was one of the first cities to do it. Seattle was one of the first cities to do it, and their economy is tanking. They got stores closing left and right, and then now, who was it? I think it was McDonald's or Wendy's or whatever. It's got the automated kiosks now because they're not going to pay anybody.
And
who was it?
Oh my God, I can't wait to get into a Wendy's and use one of those automated thingies and see how I want to get in there and have the experience. I went to the Wendy's up on there's one up on Sigmund and Milstead.
You're talking about at the intersection of 20 and Sigmund.
Yeah, across the street from the hospital. I dropped into that one the other day. I was out that way dropping an old busted TV off at the dump. They do not have the automated system in there yet. But
talk to him.
Hey, sweetheart.
Sorry, guys. Quick cameo.
But anyway, what's that, sweetheart?
Time to go to bed.
Wait, I'll talk to him.
Okay, we'll talk.
And now she's not
hi.
talking.
And now you're not talking.
Huh?
No, shut up. I just want the
Tell
boys
him
to
good
look at me.
Good night. I'll
Good
talk
night.
to him.
Night, night.
Good night.
Okay.
Have sweet dreams.
Wait.
Sweet dreams, baby. Sorry about that, fellas.
No, we have babies.
Yeah. I
We can have
hear one
yours
of
are
mine.
shockingly quiet this evening.
I hear one of mine upstairs squealing just a second ago. Where was? Oh, I bring up that particular Wendy's in this conversation because it's brand new. We've got either 2 or 3 Wendy's in town now that are brand new. That one's been there just over a year, So it's the big extra wide
Mhm.
counters and the big uh, open floor plan dining space, and it's got the flipping, mix your thousand flavors Coke machine and all that stuff. So it's one of the newer modernized ones. And so I fully expect that it will be one of the ones that goes to the automated machines. Now in Georgia, I do not expect to see that minimum wage hike in the very near future. However, to compensate for nationwide losses, given the $15 minimum wage as it's popping up in some of the communist states like Washington and California, I do expect to see some of the restaurant industries doing the same things they're doing to cut cost in those other states, in states like Georgia, where they're not having their costs raised in this state, but as a national company, they want to cut that cost across the entire company because just cutting out a couple of workers, the cost of those employees, even if they double the price they pay them, is not an extraordinarily large expense in and of itself. Um, what the real expense is the absurd tax burden that's involved with that. Additionally, nobody seems to be talking about the difference in the cost of health insurance when your income jumps so substantially. If you make under about $20,000 a year in America now, you can get your hands on a, a pretty decent silver plan with a $500 deductible, um, and you're heavily subsidized. You're going to get $500-600 in subsidy to help cover the cost of that health insurance plan. At least in the state of Georgia. I mean, those numbers vary greatly from state to state. And even
Meanwhile, I work my balls off for a $5,000 deductible.
yes, and
Yeah.
Cameron, if you made significantly less money, you could get a plan with a $500 deductible. Unfortunately, because we earn a living, we're not allowed to buy a plan that low. Now, if you would like a plan with a $2,000 deductible, I would be happy to sell you one for about $800 a month. Nope, there's no punchline. That's an absolute fact. That's the punchline. The truth
Well,
is,
and
welcome
that
to
doesn't
a
even.
world. Welcome to a world that's controlled by fucking tyrannical leftist Democrat communist socialist fucking pigs. The pigs are walking, and welcome to a world where the truth is your fucking punchline.
Well, that doesn't even. You bring up a whole host of issues, like, for example, your FICA tax is a percentage of your income, and your employer fucking matches whatever you pay in FICA tax.
Mhm.
So it's not just you going from an $8 an hour employee to a $15 an hour employee. It's all these ancillary costs that go up along with it that are outside of
Yep.
anybody and everybody's control. And let's not forget
let's not
states
forget
where
going from being a
unionization.
Let's not forget going from being a $16,000 a year employee who gets a fully subsidized. Let's not forget going from being a $16,000 a year employee who gets the fully subsidized flipping Section 8 housing credit to being a $32,000 a year employee who gets nothing.
And can barely afford to a two-bedroom apartment. That's it's funny, but that's what happened. More money, more problems. So, but there's the other thing that nobody talks about that so many union contracts read thusly. The standard wage will be 150% of the minimum wage. The standard wage will be 250% of the minimum wage.
Yes.
So if you raise minimum wage significantly, What you've really done is subtly, sneakily, but definitely given a raise to all of these union employees going forward, because your wage is going to be 150% of minimum wage. And that in and of itself is an economic powerhouse. Detroit didn't go through an automation process because they said, you know what we need is more robots in the car capital of the world. Detroit went through an automation process because it had to in order to survive, and ironically, it still did not. But when you look at things like I was talking to about 2 years ago, I was talking to a retired GM employee.
Didn't
toward the
Obama
end of our
get elected on the claim that he saved Detroit?
I mean, it's still technically
I'm going to
there,
jump in real
so
quick,
I guess
guys.
he's. So
I'm going to go ahead and get off of here. This one's going to be difficult going to bed tonight. So instead of her coming in and interrupting the broadcast, I'm just going to jump on out of here.
Hey,
so
Jasmine.
That's Josie, sir.
Oh, is it Josie? Okay. Well, all I can see right now is you. Hey, you.
Hey.
Listen to your daddy. Go to bed. And behave. Otherwise, the Chigro's going to come in the middle of the night, and he will take your left shoe and your good dreams.
All right.
the
Can you do like Uncle Chris? Can you do like Uncle Chris and go to bed? Okay, go to bed.
Good night, sweetheart. Good night, Josie.
Okay, go to bed.
No, I'll talk to Grandma.
Yeah, well, okay, we'll talk to Grandma later, but right now you need to go to bed.
Oh,
Love you guys.
I love you. Good night.
Have sweet dreams.
You know what, brother? Guys,
See you Sunday.
I hate it. I'm having fun, but I'm going to have to go ahead and call it as well. I'm actually, speaking of earning that living, I have some people that are coming back into town from their Christmas vacation. What you take a vacation from when you don't have a job, I'm not entirely fucking sure about. But they're coming back from their Christmas vacation this weekend, and I still have my job to go do. So I guess I'm going to have to jump off too so I can hit the hay.
Okay.
Well, gentlemen,
Well,
it's been real.
Been real
been
fun.
real. Chris, I'll...
So before everybody signs
Real
off,
fun.
let's do this. It is just after 2200, ladies and gentlemen. This has been the Brushfire Mind. Thank you for joining us on Friday nights, 2100. Happy New Year. It's January 1st, 2016, and I believe we kicked it off more or less right by talking about how much the bad guys are just failing us. So we got a lot of work to do in the new year. I want to touch this real quick. I want this to be in the forefront of your minds for next week's show. So you got some. I want to hear your thoughts on it going forward. The talking heads. I want to hit Donald Trump real quick. Talking heads have constantly been saying things about Donald Trump being apparently immune from the media, and that is largely why he has risen in the polls as much as he has. Now, I think in addition to that, obviously, he's just saying a lot of shit that we like to agree with. Excuse me. And at the same time, he's saying it in the way that we want to hear it. He's not mixing words and all that. And that's largely part of the national conversation on this topic. But I want to add this to the conversation. It is the case that Trump is effectively immune from persuasion from the media. Public opinion doesn't have to sway him. He can't be taken down by a media that is hostile to his positions or to his opinions or even to his presentation. And I would posit this. Not only is that a major contributing factor to his popular rise and rapid rise and staying power in the polls during this election cycle, but the ability to not be influenced by the media in decision-making, policy-making, excuse me, and in taking action that very ability to be above and immune from the media is actually a major asset for a president. I don't care if you're talking about Barack Obama, that liberal that just aggravated me because he was so nearly excellent. But he was just a little too far left. George Bush, Bill Clinton, or Ronald Reagan. I don't give a shit which president you're talking about. They've all been subject to popular opinion. They've all shown moments where they have swayed from a path or changed direction based on popular opinion and media outrage. Trump seems to be immune to that. So we could have a president who could honestly work his conscience. And I got to say, guys, reading The Art of the Deal and having a pretty solid understanding of what motivates Trump, which I think is the sort of enlightened self-interest that allows a rising tide to lift all ships, I think to cut that monster loose may be absolutely the best thing for a nation, especially if he can be so immune from policy direction altering media perspectives. So, and if you want to add something to that, I'd appreciate it. That's great. If not, please think on it, chew on it a little bit, pray on it for me, Cameron. Come back to me next week with it, and let me know what you think. Let's have a conversation about that. But that aside, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Brushfire Mind. Every Friday night at 2100, we look forward to seeing y'all next week. And this is Christopher Lowry, Cameron Anderson, and Patrick Brown signing off. Witness! Witness!